ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, chapter 12, text number 30. Dadottanappadaha putro dadarshantakam agatam mrityormurdni padam dattva arurohadbhuta graham. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Dear Dhruva Maharaj, when Dhruva Maharaj was attempting to get on the transcendental plane, he saw death personified approach him. Not caring for death, however, he took advantage of the opportunity to put his feet on the head of death, and thus he got up on the airplane, which was as big as a house. To take away the passing of a devotee and the passing away of a non-devotee as one and the same is completely misleading. While ascending the transcendental plane, Dhruva Maharaj suddenly saw death personified before him, but he was not afraid. Instead of death giving him trouble, Dhruva Maharaj took advantage of death's presence and put his feet on the head of death. People with a poor fund of knowledge do not know the difference between death of a devotee and death of a non-devotee. In this connection, an example can be given. A cat carries a kitten in its mouth, and it also catches a rat in its mouth. Superficially, the catching of the rat and the kitten appear to be one and the same, but actually they are not. When the cat catches a rat in its mouth, it means death for the rat. Whereas when the cat catches the kitten enjoys it. When Dhruva Maharaj boarded the airplane, he took advantage of the arrival of death personified, who came to offer him obeisances. Putting his feet on the head of death, he got up on the unique airplane, which is described here to be as big as a house, graham. There are many other similar instances in Bhagavatam literature. It is stated that when Kardama Muni created an airplane to carry his wife Devavati all over the universe, the airplane was like a big city, carrying many houses, lakes, and gardens. Modern scientists have manufactured big airplanes, but they are packed with passengers who experience all sorts of discomforts while riding in them. Material scientists are not even perfect in manufacturing a material airplane. In order to compare to the plane used by Kardama or the plane sent from Vishnu Loka, they must manufacture an airplane equipped like a big city with all the comforts of life, lakes, gardens, parks, etc. Their plane must be able to fly in outer space and hover and visit all other planets. If they invent such a plane, they will not have to make different space stations for fuel to travel to outer space. Such a plane would have an unlimited supply of fuel, or like the plane from Vishnu Loka would fly without it. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta. So we are hearing wonderful things which people have no experience of, at least in the modern days. As Prabhupada explains, these kind of experiences is very natural for the devotees. As far as modern world is concerned, their state of knowledge is such that they have no idea of what happens at the time of death, even for them, even for non-devotees. So neither what happens to the non-devotees nor what happens to the devotee. They have knowledge at the time of death. And yet, death is something that every day, this world is experiencing. One or the other keep dying, including one day, even we will also have to die. There is no escape to death. They say, as sure of death. So death is a very, Krishna also says, I come as death. People realize me as death. Because death is something that defeats all the desires of a materialist. All the desires of somebody who does not know life after death, who do not know the transcendental life of Vaikuntha or eternal life. Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. Death is considered to be a very important aspect of knowledge. It is very important, birth and death. To understand the reality of birth and death is very much connected to understanding the nature of the soul in this body. So, Prabhupada is explaining here that the devotees, they live the way Dhruva Maharaj left, where they are taken on a transcendental airplane by the Vishnu Dutas back to the spiritual world. Every living entity is constitutionally related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his part and parcel. Being his part and parcel, every living entity is dear to him. Does not matter currently whether that living entity is in a human body or any kind of body, the insect or worm or whatever it is. The Lord is always seated in the heart of the living entity because of the living entity being his part and parcel. He fulfills the desires of the living entity, including if the living entity wants to go back to him, go back to Godhead. In the material world, we only have experience of material bodies. We saw yesterday's verse how the transcendental body shining like molten gold, the body of Dhruva Maharaj transformed into a body of molten gold. The luster of the molten gold is very attractive. In this world also we get attracted to luster of the skin. Color come the luster, the effulgence, the liveliness. So the description that it's a molten gold. Where is all these things within our experience? We have no idea of all these things within our experience. In that sense, even the very basic things that happen to us, we do not know. Forget about, modern science does not have knowledge about Vaikuntha, etc., spiritual body, etc. Leave that. What happens to us at the time of death, which is a material phenomena. It's a phenomena everybody is facing. That itself we cannot understand. So to understand these things, the material world itself is so complicated. no human brain can understand. The effort of modern science and technology, they are just a very poor show before the nature's wonderful presentations, before the wonderful creations of both the internal energy and the external energy of the Lord. Because they are energies of the Lord, they have that extraordinary intelligence to create all these experiences to the living entities. We are all after experiences. Something wonderful happens which we do not know or which is uncommon. Immediately it gives us a thrill, a rasa of seeing extraordinary things. For a devotee who is in touch with devotional service of the Lord, if he learns how to keep his consciousness in association with the Supreme Consciousness, then every moment for such a devotee would be enlivening and will be extraordinary, because of all the attractive things, the Supreme Consciousness of the living of the Supreme Lord is the most attractive. Consciousness is the most attractive thing, even in this material world. Prabhupada explains that when one living entity is attracted to another living entity, he does not know that he is actually attracted to the consciousness. Consciousness is represented by, or is recognized, represented, identified as the ego, real ego. In each of our body there is a real ego. That ego has got thinking, feeling, willing, desiring. That ego has got the instinct for satta, chitta and ananda. That is actually the soul. The soul is a Brahman. It's a person. Up to a certain level, gradually, if you see the history, Buddha appeared. He said there is no soul. Gross and subtle body is what really exists. And the subtle body goes through different incarnations. And if you can merge the subtle body, then that is the end of the identity of the person. That is nirvana. Ending the subtle body is nirvana for them. There is no soul at all in the philosophy of Buddhism. Then Shankaracharya came and he said, he brought back the Vedas. Very difficult for Buddha to have taught that there is no soul if the Vedas are interpreted. So therefore in Buddhism, there is no place for the Vedas. We all know that why the Supreme Lord made that arrangement historically. Because there was excessive killing of animals simply on the little license given by the Vedas. under certain conditions, how one could eat meat. That was being abused without following the restrictions given by the scriptures, taking advantage of the provision for eating meat. There was rampant killing of animals. Therefore, that has to go, and that killing was on the strength of the Vedic thing. So he preached non-violence, and he told, you reject the Vedas. The only way is to reject the Vedas, because in Vedas you can interpret. You cannot interpret soullessness. You can interpret either there is a soul, you are one with the soul, not one with the soul, or soul and super soul is different. All these things are possible from the Vedas by interpretation. So Shankaracharya, by indirect interpretation, there is direct reading and there is indirect reading. Like Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is, and there are so many Bhagavad Gitas, you can give so many interpretations. As it is interpretation and your concocted interpretations. As it is purport or your concocted commentaries. So Shankaracharya, he came and then he gave interpretation to the Vedas. No, there is something beyond matter. There is something beyond matter. That is called Brahman. That is called spirit. It is Nirguna. And that Nirguna has expanded into the temporary three modes of material nature, gunas. So wherever there is a life symptom, Brahman, I am Brahman, you are Brahman, everybody is Brahman. So that Brahman is a different reality from matter, spirit. And that matter, that Brahman is one with all Brahmans are one. I am feeling I am different, you are feeling different because of lack of self-realization. I am feeling I am part and there is a God. This is lack of self-realization. But they say it is good to feel God. Idea of a God is good. But God is not really there. Therefore they say you have to merge with God. They have a bhakti process, and the bhakti process they say that you have to merge into that and become one with that deity whom you are worshipping. Because there is no two. If there is two, then there is illusion. So that's a Shankaracharya. So spirit or the spirit was brought into picture. A very important service Shankaracharya did compared to relative to what was going on Buddhism time. To bring back the idea of there is Brahman. And Brahman is different from matter. Matter is temporary, Brahman is permanent. This is very important. Then the Lord sent Ramanujacharya. He interpreted the same Vedantas, Vedanta Sutras. He explained that there is Parabrahman and there is Brahman. Brahman is not equal to Parabrahman. Brahman is a tiny spirit. And Parabrahman is an infinite spirit. Brahman is tiny consciousness. And the Parabrahman is infinite consciousness. Then Madhvacharya appeared. He explained about different Shaktis. The living entity, Brahman, they are actually the Shakti of the Parabrahman. Like that, the Supreme Lord has got unlimited energies, different tattvas, Jiva tattva, Vishnu tattva, different energies are there. So if you see like that, the whole, how from impersonalism, atheism, to impersonalism, to personalism, to different shades of personalism, they were all the plan of the Supreme Lord. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he established the principle of Achintya Bheda Veda Tattva. Even though we are energies of the Parabrahman, energy is simultaneously one and different from this source, which is Parabrahman. And yesterday we discussed about, the purport was talking about how the Supreme Lord Vishnu is worshipable. Not only he is worshipable, everything associated with him is worshipable because of the simultaneous one and different that is there. Once the Lord's energy gets perfectly linked up in devotional service, then worshipping that personality is as good as worshipping Krishna. That is why in this we also worship the spiritual master. Why do you worship the spiritual master? Because the spiritual master is completely, his state of realization is that of being part of the Supreme Lord. So therefore, he is worshipping him, is worshipping the Supreme Lord. Worshipping any paraphernalia of the Lord is equal to worshipping the Lord. Why? Because they cannot be separated. You touch one, you touch the other. You touch the altar, you touch the deity. It's like that. You touch the Nama, you touch the Nami, the Supreme Lord. Form, name, Leela, gunas of the Supreme Lord, they are all Lord and his manifestations of mercy. So many wonderful truths are being revealed in the process of this Leela of Dhruva Maharaj. Coming back to death, devotees are not afraid of death because they lived their life knowing very well the event called death. Prabhupada says the event called death for a devotee is completely different from that of a non-devotee. For the non-devotee, what is the difference? The non-devotee has no idea of what is going to happen to him after death. By then he is so attached to living in a world of name, form, activities. And when he is at the time of death, since he does not know what is ahead of him, it brings so much fear. Not only that, the Yamadutas, they come and take him. First, for all the sins that he has done, he has to be punished. Then only his next birth he gets. These are all very realities that happen to every soul. So, in a sense, modern science does not know even a little of these truths. Somehow, modern science is modern religion of people. It's so foolish how they illogically they extend some success in technology as meaning that they have understood truth. They have understood material nature. At this stage, where so much of scientific discoveries have happened, if somebody says that 200 years back, or there was no physics at all, they didn't know anything, even law of gravity they didn't. When you say that, we would say, oh, so primitive. This world did not have knowledge of physics, chemistry, all these things. Now, today we have all this. When you compare it to what is to be known, what is yet to be discovered, what is space, what is time, what are all these galaxies, huge cosmos, nothing. From that perspective, if you see, it's like children playing. Modern science. The one who hears these wonderful pastimes in Srimad Bhagavatam, then he sees these are all nothing, there is no achievement at all. Like Prabhupada says, what is the achievement? Material scientists are not even perfect in manufacturing a material airplane. See how Prabhupada's mind is working. Nobody even suggests such a thing. In order to compare to plane used by Kardama Muni or plane sent from Vishnu Loka, they must manufacture an airplane equipped like a big city. No big challenge. Okay, you guys are, you think we are primitive, superstitious. We put a challenge to you. Airplane equipped like a big city with all the comforts of life, lakes, gardens, park, all the details are described in Kardama Muni's Leela. Their plane must be able to fly in outer space and hover and visit all other planets. Because Kardama Muni's planet that went to all the planets, including heavenly planets. If they invent such a plane, they will not have to make different space stations for fuel to travel into outer space. Such a plane would have an unlimited supply of fuel. Or like the plane from Vishnu Loka, there is no need for energy. Because by consciousness it flies. Materially constructed planes, they require fuel. So everybody walks around, like a jnani today. Everybody thinks, because little about science he has learned, or his fellow human beings have discovered something. Instead of seeing how much is unknown, he prides in what little he has known. When you see how much is unknown, then you develop faith in the scriptures that there must be some other way of knowing the truth. That is the descending process of knowledge as against ascending process. According to the ascending process of knowledge, they cannot understand what happens at death. But from the descending process of knowledge, what happens at death is described. And it does not end with simply hearing the description what happens at the time of death. These are how you can achieve that, how you can attain that, how you can go to Vaikuntha, how a Vaikuntha plane will come to take you. What is the process that we have to follow for easy journey to other planets? All these things are also given. In the initial days when we come to Krishna consciousness, we tend to think, how these things all compare with scientific discoveries today. Somehow we also come into Krishna consciousness, the high level of respect for science. But by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, we understand the power of the descending process of knowledge as against the ascending process of knowledge. The limitations of the ascending process of knowledge, even though it is a process of knowledge. So we develop faith in what the scriptures say. Then our process of learning is not ascending, it is descending. We take the knowledge from what is there given by the scriptures, what Bhagavad Gita says, we take it as truth, with Shraddha, and then we realize that it is truth. It's not that we just remain like that. If somebody challenges, where is the proof? You are the soul. Then no, our proof is you also, if you want proof, then you have to live the life that I will tell you. You have to maintain your body, your mind. Even in your ordinary experiment in a laboratory, you maintain for each experiment different temperature, different pressure. Then only you will get the result. The same way, you follow no intoxication, no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling. This is a condition. No, how can you put this condition? How can you put condition in the laboratory? Mix hydrogen and oxygen only on this temperature and this pressure. Simply you mix hydrogen and oxygen, you get water? No. So many conditions are there. Similarly, so many conditions are there in the matter of self-realization too. The very fact that we are telling it is self-realization means conditions are on the self. Their conditions are on hydrogen and oxygen. Your self-realization means the conditions are on the self. Self consists of body, mind, soul. So you follow those things, and then you will see whatever is told is truth. Very important for devotees to understand this, that we are also very scientific. We are more scientific than them. For us, realization means following what the scriptures say and proving it. Experiencing what is said. So you follow 4 regulative principles, conditions. Then you chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The sound of infinite consciousness. Let it go into your heart and touch it. Do 16 rounds. Then truth will be seen as it is. When you see truth as it is, you don't ask proof. Isn't it? If there is a karta, I can see. Nobody says, prove there is a karta. Karta is there, I am seeing. It doesn't need proof. Prove that there is a karta. Similarly, when you see the soul and the body separate, spirit separate, body separate, you know it is true. When you touch the effect of the holy name, the unlimited consciousness, as Prabhupada put, super consciousness, with all-pervading consciousness. And this sound, the deity, they are all incarnations of this unlimited consciousness. And when you see that the unlimited consciousness, when you see that the holy name is reciprocating, deities are reciprocating, then you develop faith. You increase your faith. Ultimately, the Supreme Lord cannot be known fully because He is unlimited. Whether it's the holy name, the material world, everything we try to measure and say, this is it, close the understanding. So this side of the Kartal, yes, I know. I want to know other side. Then I want to know what it is made up of. It can go on like this to understand. But it's all finite knowledge. But as far as the Parabrahman is concerned, as far as Krishna is concerned, Vishnu is concerned, God is concerned, God Tattva can never be completely understood by the tiny brain, whether conditioned or liberated. He can be known only to the extent to which He reveals Himself to His devotee. So as I explained in the beginning, when we come to Krishna consciousness, we feel science is great. But in terms of really discovering the truth, in fact, modern science, the developments in modern science helps us increase our faith in the scriptures. It helps us increase our faith. Because we know that the modern science has come to the point of saying that at least earlier days, if you say, what is space? They'll say space is space, you can directly see. Then no need for research. The direct truth, what space? X, Y, Z, ho gaya. That's the explanation. This is 150 years back, 100 years back, 130. Now modern science says space is not what it appears to be. Space and time. Time is also another dimension, another ontological truth. Ontological truth means it is a property of, it's an objective property. Time is not a factor which the mind created to understand motion. Time is invariably inseparable from X, Y, Z, called space-time. This is very revolutionary. This is not very old. This is not very new. This has come almost 100 years back. Please understand. Since then, what is matter? What is matter? What is space? It has only bewildered the scientist. Scientists, right from beginning, their earlier attempts were always to give a, okay, we will understand all the laws of nature to some degree. Laws tell us how things work. I don't have to study each, why a big object falls, how it falls, how a small object falls, all the details. I just found out gravity, I understood now how all things fall. I understood motion, force, no. So Only principles are required. We can understand the whole universe, whole existence in terms of few laws. But that is now bewildering. With modern, as science is advancing, they are accepting that. It's a very important observation for us. Very important for us, those who are followers of the Vedas, scriptures, those who are followers of the descending process of knowledge. It's very important to understand that modern science has come to a crossroads. Unlike in the beginning days of modern science, the beginning days of modern science, you can say, yes, let's hope, let's hope. Hope is there, hope is there. Modern science, modern physics says we do not know whether mathematics is basis of physics or physics is basis of mathematics. Because today they've gone so deep into the material nature and all those things. They have no way to experiment it. Most of the new principles that they are finding out is coming out of mathematical conclusions. After mathematical conclusion, they are going out, okay, where to search for it? The material in real phenomena. Science began with studying what is there. Let me study what is there. So that at least they have something to handle. Go and learn what it is. But today the mathematics, they tell something, there is a dark matter. There is a dark energy. Nobody has seen. It's coming in the mathematics. Now from the mathematics they are searching, doing so many experiments. Can we search what it is? It has to be there. How to detect? Without that, my all other physics will fall apart. If I don't postulate a dark energy, dark matter, the universe will not be stable. It has to be there somewhere. That is the very reason they are given the word dark. Dark means it's not detectable. Dark energy, dark matter. So we are not simply speaking in the air. As Prabhupada is challenging the scientist, we challenge the scientist. Accept, don't think everything is humanly possible. By divine grace, one can understand the knowledge, and that is the descending process. Any questions? One example Prabhupada gives here is about the rat and the kitten. We always talk about that. How the cat carries a rat between the teeth to crush it to death, and the same cat carries its kitten. Visually it appears to be the same, but one is an act of love, one is an act of crushing. Similarly, devotees also have to die. Just like the scientists, what are you talking about? Soul and all. Ultimately you also have to die, no? No, I don't have to die. My body will die. I don't have to die. My body will die. I am not this body. I know the process of how to die. I know the destination after death. Having said that, we all have to be very careful that we should not come back into this material world. If you have material desire, you'll have to. If you only desire to for pure devotion service, we don't have to. Due to past karmic conditioning, some desires are there. That is all right. That all will be cleansed in 1 second. But the soul itself should not have desire. Just like in the material world, we may have so many. Without desire, man cannot live. So there will be preferences. You may prefer a rasgulla against a gulab jamun. Preferences. You cannot say preferences are different. Desire is. Preferences should be there in the material world, differentiation. You're not attached to it. These are all conditioned. Convert all our desires into preferences. So many desires. And these are desires, they keep manifesting by the mercy of the super soul. He reminds of us of all desires. Convert them all into preferences. Preferences means what? If it comes, it comes. If it doesn't come, it doesn't come. So you're detached. Detached desiring is called preferences. And then at the time of death, preferences are very easy, it will get wiped out. But if you really sincerely you have some other desires, they're all foolish and you will get fulfilled. You have to take birth in a heavenly kingdom. Do you want to become Indra after dying? You may now think, compared to what I am now, Indra's good position. Now, right now, I'm nothing compared to Indra, materially. Right? So we, in a sweep, the devotees are not interested in anything material. I don't want Indra, I don't want to become any, the richest person, etc., etc. Oh, don't have all those desires. Oh, in terms of service for the Krishna, you need money, preference. I give, you take, we'll do it. I have no desire for money.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Today's verse was very interesting and the class was also very nice. So sometimes what happens, just like after hearing and reading Srila Prabhupada's books, so more so when we read first time. So when I remember when I was in college, I got in touch first time when I read Prabhupada's books. So I was very excited to know such a wonderful knowledge, especially how Prabhupada explained scientifically everything logically. So then also Prabhupada also urges for us to preach this message. So like you mentioned in the class that how different philosophy were there, so and how Krishna consciousness is the topmost philosophy, and how our science is better than the scientists also. So all this we read in the Prabhupada's books, we get really excited. And just like I remember I used to, when I read, after that I used to preach to my friends, trying to convince them, oh, this is the truth. So what you know is not right. So sometimes I remember I became very strongly, and then afterwards some friends stopped talking to me. Then I felt okay. Then I thought I should not preach. So now how to preach, like when we are very enthusiastic about preaching. So and one thing, and then second is when people don't take it, then how to understand that and move forward.
When you preach, first thing you don't preach about Kardama Muni's airplane. It was advanced matter. Huh? You have to make them understand. Preaching, you have to. How does preaching begin? How does Krishna, what is the first thing Krishna teaches in the Bhagavad Gita? You are not the body. You preach that you don't die. It's a very big discovery. Before that, many people don't even think of death. Right? So, a preaching even before that, I am not the body, is to make them understand that you will die. Let them ask question. What answer you have? You have to die. Then the only answer he has, when the body dies, I die. What's the problem? Why I have to question? Then you say, be reasonable, you understand, but why you don't like death? Then they'll say, no, so many people commit suicide. So they want to die. No, but it's a fact that anybody at the time of dying, the last moment of suicide, they want to hold on. But they put themselves in a situation where they cannot. They hang. They know. But actually, if given a chance, you will try to survive. So your nature is to exist. So unless we point out these things, just like we should tell them, like, how do you study fire? You see the properties of fire, light, heat, everything. Study how much light, how much quantity. Right? These are the qualities. Similarly, we have to first preach to them our quality, that you are a person first of all. You want to remain a person. Then, like Prabhupada preached, can you produce a person out of chemicals? Can you produce? So at least take first hypothesis I am telling, that there is a spirit in this body. And we are throwing a challenge to you, that you can see the separation of spirit and matter as a matter of self-evident truths. Spiritual realizations are self-evident truth. Realization means what? It is real. Directly seeing, soul is real. It is possible for you to realize soul if you follow the preliminary processes of self-realization. So also about the super soul, consciousness, super consciousness. Prabhupada uses very elaborately in the West when he initially went, this whole idea of consciousness and super consciousness, tiny consciousness and the infinite consciousness. They are very logical. You are conscious of your body, but there is one person who is conscious of all bodies. And yoga means you are linking up. We are throwing a challenge to you, that find out that supreme consciousness, connect with him. You can talk to him, he will reciprocate. These are all the possibilities. So if you really want to pursue the spiritual life, whole life you can be researching. And that's what we are doing. We are not speculating, but we are putting effort to realize. That is our path. Scientists are going on experimenting. That is their path, and they keep discovering truth. We live what the scriptures say and continue to go on, realize. That's our path. But both are for truth. So these spiritual truths cannot be discovered by material experiments. Grandaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.